Malro Pockets here, back again playing some more EVE Online. We are once again doing some Emerging Conduits. Today we are doing,
Are you in
as
the site yet?
promised, a fleet conduit run with a couple of friends. So along with us, at some point, we will have Sofia in her Vedmak, or not Vedmak, I am dumb, Vindicator, and another special guest who I'll let introduce themselves.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashterothi, and I will be your Icky Tursa pilot for the day.
And so I'll be flying a Loki today. That's going to be a lot of fun. First time out, I haven't even tried this yet, so we'll see how it works. Hoping it shreds frigates. Okay, and I'm going to try not to botch this.
Warp drive active.
All right, starting the site. Here we go. I should have turned push to talk off, but that's okay.
In position. Not a bad warp. Who has the MTU?
Me.
Cool.
And free fire. This thing tanks like 1,000 DPS, so I'm pretty good that way. Yeah, so this is going quite a bit quicker.
This is a double web Icky, so it kind of cuts through things.
Yeah, plus my web.
Oh, geez. Yeah. And here comes the Vindicator,
And then
speaking
the
of webs.
Vindicator, yeah, no kidding, right?
Where you going? Nowhere.
All right, Ash, so here we are, finally, getting to run some Emergings together. It's been a while.
Yeah, man. You've been doing I really enjoy watching your experimentation.
I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun trying to figure things out and find things that work. I think I may have finally given up on the Praxis, though. I just can't get the tank where I would like it to be for a battleship.
I think that the Praxis is functional to be like to help a new player get up in there fast. But yeah, at a certain point, you're just going to want to move on for efficiency's sake.
I didn't even bring drones. I didn't turn my reppers on soon enough. Don't worry about me. They'll catch up.
Yeah.
All right. So what about this chapter 2? What do we know? I haven't even really heard a lot of the theories yet. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so Invasion Chapter 2 is coming out at the end of this month, which is going to be the new expansion. And there hasn't been a lot of stuff talked about it because it seems that CCP wants a lot of it to be a surprise, like the exact nature of what's going to happen. We do know that there is the new Dreadnought coming, which has a lot of people really excited, including a lot of market speculators. And we also know that the stellar observatories, the stellar accelerator, or at least it seems to be that the stellar accelerators that have recently come out are going to be increasingly important in Chapter 2. And it seems that Concord has actually developed their own stellar observatories. So the main change in Chapter 2, it seems to be that we can now choose which side we want to be on. When we go do these new sites for the Dreads, there will be an option to side with one side or the other, with the expectation that there will be consequences based on which choice you make. How extensive that's going to be is still yet unknown, and CCP like it that way.
Interesting. So almost like a capture the flag at the sun.
Well, I mean, like that's actually, if you wanted to get tinfoil. So these sites, I think the dread sites spawn just like any other normal sites, and so within the site, it appears that there's like you can side with one side or another. But on top of that, then there's the tinfoil side of things, which is that, you know, they're setting up this conflict between the Triglavians and Concord, and if Concord have a stellar observatory and Trig have a stellar accelerator, my assumption would be that those both can't be on the sun at the same time, which naturally lends itself to exactly what you're saying, like a capture the flag, a us versus them, or territory where a sun can quote unquote be claimed by one side or another based on which accelerator is allowed to be on it. This is also kind of consistent with the wording on these things, because it says, you know, the possibility that the Triglavians are attempting to add this system to their domains cannot be ruled out. And so if you think about it as territory, and so something that's owned by a Triglavian stellar accelerator is somehow different than one that's owned by a Concord Concord observatory, that leads to all kinds of gameplay, right?
Yeah, the question, I guess, is what side we're going to choose, right?
Oh, triangles.
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious?
I don't know. Talk to the Corp. A lot of them still want to be Galente.
Well, I mean, I don't think that we're going to not be Galente. But if you're telling me if we want to side with the... I'm going to go to the next site, by the way.
Okay, I'm just waiting for the Zoria's loot. I'll come there in a sec.
If you're telling me that the choice is between Concord Blue or Trig Red, I'm going red every time.
Oh yeah, between Concord and Trig, there's no question.
Yeah.
Concord is the enemy.
Although, I mean, the retaliating entities that are seeming to come are going to be individual empires. So, like, the Galente have their own and Limar have their own. So it'll be interesting how it works out. There's a lot that we really don't know. And, in fact, when it was asked... like, hey, are you going to say anything about, like, questions about the, like, the DLP, standings, how all this stuff works? Like, will we not be able to use our LP anymore? They were explicitly not answering our questions to that effect. So, any amount of, like, uncertainty that you feel right now as we enter...
No, it's good that they're not telling us. I think that makes it more interesting in the end.
These dreads, man, like the stats on them are just disgusting.
I know. I was thinking of training dreads, and I've kind of held off because I may have to train, you know, the right one.
Well, the nice thing is that in general, the difference between Amar and Trig is like one skill.
Yeah, no, I'm training like the supports, the ones that all the dreads need, but. I think that may be that we just want to make that our dreadnought.
It's going to be hard to say. But, I mean, the stats that we saw, or the stats that people have figured out so far, if they are final, which CCP sort of suggested that they might be, they are extraordinarily strong.
Well, again, they'll probably be much like everything else, single target, right?
Well, yeah. And the other thing is about them. So the manufacturing of them is kind of the most interesting for me. These emergings that we're doing right now have had pretty profound effects on the market. The salvage, Triglavian salvage, has obviously gone down in value. But at the same time, the T1 materials from the Abyss have gone up, because it takes T1 materials to make the T2 ship. Like, you need to make a T1 ship to make the T2 ship. So there's this big demand for the T1 materials right now. And as it turns out, the Dread, being a T1 ship, takes T1 mats. So I feel like this is going to be an increased pressure on an already overwhelmed market of the Abyss. So if you have a Firestorm runner, or really any Abyss runner, and you haven't flown it in a while, it's probably time to dust it off and make some money.
Yeah, I'll get my Gila back out. Not passive fit this time. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do at the end of the month and where this goes. And I fully agree, like, if we have to choose between Concord and Triggs, we're not choosing Concord. And yeah.
Felt like an easy choice to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe our area of space will become a Triglavian stronghold and we can just all become Triglavians.
Well, if I could get total tinfoil, what I would say is, what does Concord... What would it mean for a Concord observatory to be on a sun? And I think that it'd be really interesting if they somehow used this mechanic to dynamically change the security status of a system. So a Trig-owned system might be less secure, and a Concord-owned system would be more secure. I don't know. That's literally just tinfoil and wishful thinking. But boy, would that be cool. And it's kind of in line with what they were saying, what Hilmar was saying before. But yeah, really, like, bottom line is that these things are designed to be like a weather pattern. Like, so they change the nature of the system itself and how things work within it.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, they said the end of the month, right?
Yeah, I want to say it was like the 25th, but I'm not 100% sure right now. But they did give the date.
Okay. Ash,
and
for
then,
the next site, just sorry to put a pin in it.
Yeah.
You go ahead and warp. I'll wait for the wreck, and then that way Sofia can warp right to you, and they don't have to do the double jump. It'll probably be faster.
Well, in this case, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I gotta wait to scoop the MTU anyway.
Sure.
Anyways. Yeah, that's interesting. I know I caught a lot of the Vegas stuff, but a lot of the extra stuff, I just haven't had time to dig into any, like, the news and the theories and all of that, so that's excellent.
Well, it's not even the only big thing that's happening this month, because on top of that, we also have the release of the Korean client, which is coming on the 14th, I want to say. That's going to be a big deal, man. For those of you who don't realize, earlier, I think this year, CCP was bought out by Black Pearl, or Pearl Abyss, sorry. In warp. And of course, Pearl Abyss being a Korean company, I find it, pretty sensible that one of the very first things they do is Korean localization. But that does mean that they're throwing a lot of money at entering into the Korean market. So I wonder what kind of ramifications that's going to have to the game as a whole. I know a lot of people are really nervous because Koreans have a certain reputation of being overwhelmingly good at games that they get into.
Yeah, no kidding. And, like, especially, obviously a lot of that's going to end up being null politics, and that's very close or in AU time zone, isn't it? Close to.
Yes,
so it's going to really shake up
in position.
Time zone tanking things and stuff like that.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing. That's actually a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking that, like, my hopefulness is that, like, so Korea in particular is very into esports. So if they're throwing a bunch of money at making EVE more palatable for a Korean audience, does that mean that we finally will justify expending resources on a decent tourney/esports tool? That would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
More tinfoil.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff we had last time, like the stuff EVE NT was doing, is really good. Just need to make that, like, more official, I guess.
Well, the issue is, so a lot of the testing happens, or a lot of the tournaments are supposed to happen on a special server known as Thunderdome, which was created originally by, I want to say, CCP Logibro, but somebody else might have made it. He just kind of maintained it. I don't remember. But Either way, Thunderdome was designed to be like have all of the functionality of tournament tools built into it, so that way people can run stuff on it. But the problem is, this is true about the AT2 as well, is that basically, the client gets updated throughout the year, but unfortunately, it's not like on anybody's agenda to keep the tourney tools updated. So every year, they have to like figure out whether or not they can make the tourney tools work with the way that the game now is. And it just so happened that like that became harder and harder until it wasn't worth it anymore, which is where we're at.
Yeah, that's
but,
true.
Like I said, that's literally just a effort and resource issue, right? So if Pearl Abyss comes in and says, no, we want you to have an esports team, here's enough money to make sure you have like a dedicated esports dude, then guess what? We're going to have a dedicated esports dude. So I'm holding out hope.
Yeah, that'd be excellent, because I do miss it. I mean, I watch the Alliance tournament every year for however long I've been playing, really. And it was getting better and better every year. So it sucks that it kind of just stopped. But
yeah. It has always been touch and go, though. Like every year, it's always been like, well, we don't know if we're going to do it this year. But it just so happened that every year does, because there's a lot of really passionate CCP devs that want to make this happen, and they actually do it in their off time, with their extra. Like they do all their normal work, and then they also do this stuff. So, CCP Fozzie, I know, has put a lot of effort into it, but at the same time, it's like, if it's broken enough that you can't do it in your off time, then you can't. Then you require real effort and real money dedicated to it, and they just haven't had that historically.
Wow, we can cross our fingers. I know there's been a lot of player-run tournaments stepping up to fill that gap a bit too, which has been pretty good.
Right, and that's what I hope for. Is like what I would hope for is tools that would allow us to
better run
like
those.
Yeah, very similar to like the dojo system that was described by CCP Veritas, where basically there'd be like a deployable that would create a realm or a zone within Tranquility that allows the tournaments to occur within. If not that, then just a much more robust and available like Thunderdome like system would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, even instead of just having a separate server for it to maintain, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to do a separate server, that'd be great. But if you could bring it to Tranquility, it'd be interesting, because like then you start getting into other crazy ideas. So one of the issues is that if you have a controllable area of space via deployable in Tranquility, well, can people disrupt it? If they can't, is that fact exploitable? Like there's a lot of considerations to put into when it comes to actually running it on the live server, where players can play with it in the sandbox. That's potentially fairly dangerous.
Yeah, because there's ways as EVE players always do, they'll find ways to game it and turn it into an advantage for other things.
That being said, I mean, what they're already doing is pretty incredible. They're putting a lot of effort into integrating newer players and giving them a path in the game. Oh yeah, hey, look at that. Which is super cool. And then like things like this, right? Like the Emerging Conduits. I think a lot of people underestimate their value in the long run. So one of the things that got me is there's the Rasnaborg, right? Not just the Emerging Conduits, but then there's the Rasnaborg packs that roam around, and they need to be descanned, but they're easier than Emerging Conduits. So your instinct is to say that they should come first. But the act of descanning actually is a more advanced technique.
Yeah, I'm terrible at it.
In essence, the easier Rasnaborg end up being the reward for the more advanced technique. So what seems to be happening is you're getting this double path of progression for EVE players in position, where if they don't meet anyone, they still have a path towards like advancement. where you now go into all the way through missions just like normal. But the issue with missions is that when that's the top, the issue with missions isn't the fact that they are boring inherently. It's that when that is what you do them enough times that they become so. And so if you can just, if going through the mission process is just a stepping stone to something else, then awesome. So you go through all the way through missions, and by the time you get to level 4 missions, you should have the skills and the money to make your first emerging conduit fit, if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you can find, and again, that's where the emerging conduits really help, is you can find a group to run them with.
Right.
Like running
exactly.
this with two
that's
other
my point.
people
Like
is so much more
as the
efficient.
final step, you're now being forced, or at least corralled into something that will help you find people.
Whoa, I had some serious screen tearing there for a second. I don't know what that was. Sorry, freaked out. It's over now. Keep going.
I've noticed that in all the Abyss sites with like the special effects that they put in, sometimes you can get like weird red screen tearing stuff.
Yeah, Ash, bring him back.
I know. I'm sorry. I messed up. I'm coming. But yeah, so the other path though is if the player meets another player who's able to give them direction, then things actually change, because that unlocks. Basically, you go into emerging conduits immediately if you have money, or if you don't have money, you've got, 3-man abyss and other things like that. So like if you're with somebody else, there are actually some really good paths towards progression that is different. So it doesn't matter if you meet somebody or if you don't meet somebody, there is a path towards learning the game now that is engaging and fun. So I think that that's going to be very valuable to the game.
You do missions until you get used to it and you make a little bit of money so you can build your first ship to do the other things you're interested in. And now that there's more things, especially, and eventually, maybe that means you go to low sec or null sec, but if your interest is in PvE, there's a lot more for you to do now, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And these emerging sites actually feel, they feel like this is what Resource Wars should have been.
Ouch.
Right, though?
We don't talk about Resource Wars. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I know we don't talk about Resource Wars, I know.
I'm not bitter, you're bitter.
I am bitter.
It's okay though. Insofar as the fact that the goal of Resource Wars was to give you an activity that you've already processed on a solo level and just be like, and now you do it near other people and help each other. I think it's pretty successful at that. The concern that I have is that so much of the value is still locked into the loot.
Yeah.
It does contribute to a bit of friction between people. I'd like to see the value of the loot come down a little bit. Maybe the value of the site itself go up a little bit
to encourage cooperation to run them faster between neutral entities.
Yeah. Because the goal should be, in my opinion, that when another person that you've never seen before come in, you should be like, oh good, now these are go faster. Not, oh no, this guy's gonna steal my loot.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the fact that I don't do them for the ISK currently, so I haven't felt that. Usually if someone joins me, I just like, hey, come on in.
Well, I'm the same way too, but the issue is that both sides have to be comfortable, right?
Yeah,
so what I do is I end up running into problems where I come in and the guy's like, and warps out, and I'm like, wait, no, I wasn't trying to scare you away. Which is why, as I'm about to demonstrate, I carry a firework launcher with me. So that way, to demonstrate that I mean no harm, I will abandon all my wrecks and then fire off a couple fireworks to be like, hey, I'm not like everybody else. You can be cool with me. We're celebrating. It's all fun. But I honestly don't know if that works or not.
I don't know. I try. I think some of it, some people obviously reach out to me too because they've seen my YouTube stuff, which is awesome. But it does seem to be increasing the amount of interactions I have with neutral players, way more than missions ever did, obviously.
Right, and the key is that idea of selfishness or conflict, while it still is present, it isn't the default. Like, you have to decide that it's important enough to fight over, right? That there is a way to look at it that isn't worth fighting over. Whereas in a lot of other PvE, or just content in general in EVE, anytime that players are put in close proximity to each other, it's inherently hostile.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
there's a place
with
for
the old
hostility,
events.
absolutely. I mean, it is EVE, but at the beginning, when people are starting out, we need to get them where they want to be and where they need to be. Like, I know we get a lot of people who play solo for even sites up. You know,
Let me
months,
be clear. Oh yeah.
And then finally join us because they saw you on stream or they saw my YouTube or something, and it makes a world of difference.
Right, and so let me be clear. I'm not saying that circumstances that put people together in a conflicting way are bad. I mean, they're good. That's why we play EVE. But the problem is that that's the only kind of interaction that existed for a long time. Like, even like event sites, which were really known for getting people in the same room together, only one person's getting the jackpot. Therefore, there's no way to process that room in a way that wasn't a conflict, right? Like, working together just didn't make any sense. Whereas in this case, it does. Ash in position. So, I'm not saying that we need everything to be cooperative and we should all like sing Kumbaya or some shit. When or sing Kumbaya or something. But what I'm saying is that it is good to have that kind of interaction too between players.
And there's plenty of room for both, like tons of room.
Exactly. Just any kind of more interaction is good. Partially because it doesn't actually matter what CCP wants us to do in the sites. We're going to just do whatever we want. So.
Warp drive active.
Awesome. So, other than being busy on Discord, what have you been up to?
Well, I mean, just went to Vegas. That was amazing.
Yeah, I saw you popping up on the stream every so often.
Yeah, I try to be noticeable with that hat. But yeah, there's so much awesome stuff going on. I made that new video for the wrecking machine, which ended up just really working out.
Yeah, that thing turned out awesome. That video, it turned out great. I've been listening to that song like every day now.
Yeah, for the record, I take almost no credit for it. Like, my process was, well, I knew I wanted to put video to music. Like, I was like, I want to do trailers, put on videos from the trailers. But like in my head, I was thinking like maybe some of the Dust videos where it's like everything's like blown up or something, because it's got this forlorn sound to it. Like it reminds me of like that moment in the movie, like from the second to the third act when everything's gone to crap, right? Like, yeah. So that's what I had in my mind. So, but I was like, I don't know where to start. So I just opened YouTube and SoundCloud and just started playing the song and putting on trailers. The first trailer I put on was the Inferno trailer, which ended up working within 1 second of perfect. And then at a certain point in the trailer, it switches to being like text. And so I didn't want any of that. So the frame that it ends at is literally the next frame starts being the text. So I pushed it for as long as I could. And then I was like, well, I was like, what do I want for that? Like the end stinger. And I wanted the eyes of the drifter waking up. Like, I was like, oh yeah, that'll be cool. And so I put it on there, and that didn't happen when I just threw it on there randomly, and I didn't get the drifter, but what I got was the golem blowing up. And I was like, oh wow, that was good. And so I dialed that in, like literally only 2 or 3 seconds of changes from the initial just put it on there, and it was perfect. I was like, all right, ship it, I guess. So full credit, in my opinion, goes to the trailer makers and the music maker. I just discovered, I didn't write The Wall, and I didn't direct what is that? Dorothy. Now I'm dumb. What is it? Dorothy.
I don't remember.
old show, like movie. Everybody knows it. It's like the oldest
The
movie
Wizard
ever.
of Oz?
Wizard of Oz. Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't
that's where
direct
you're
the
going,
Wizard of
okay.
Oz, but I just discovered that when you play the wall to the Wizard of Oz, it's fun. That's all I did.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to that to the description there, so anybody who hasn't seen it yet can do so, because it's worth it. The song, like even just for the song, it was an amazing remix of Wrecking Machine.
Yeah, when it came out, I went up to CCP Tara and I was like, "Hey, this is going to be my new like conclusion song for my stream." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. We were thinking about putting it on SoundCloud." I'm like, "Well, that's great and all. I'm just letting you know. I'm informing you. Like, this is too good. I can't not. Like, I get chills. Like, I've heard it probably 50 times already, and I still like when it gets on. I'm like, ooh." The other thing, somebody commented about it because of the fact that I put the drifter stuff in it, and when you do that, it actually changes the context of the song.
Yes.
So in the original song, it's a celebration of Capsuleers being violent. The new one's like a warning. Here comes the wrecking machine.
We just need some good like Triglavian CG done up, so we can do that too.
That's a good point. There's not a lot of really good like pre-rendered video involving Triglavians. Even the Inferno trailer predominantly has
Sights. Oh, no, it's not.
non-trig people
Sights up
as their major non-trig people as the major focus of the video.
Yeah,
so
and
there's not very much
it's probably
trig in
all
there.
related to they don't want to give us too much information yet.
Maybe,
Because
I don't know.
We know what their suits look like.
That was a question that was brought up. It was like, well, we have the Drifter autopsy. Why don't we have a Triglavian autopsy? Which goes back to the whole thing that I obsess over, which is, who are these people, and what do they want, and how do they relate to everything else? So I've been doing a lot of investigation. There's a old project that happened in 2011, I want to say, called the Eric Jalan Project, which was basically a partnership between CCP and the players. As in, CCP had a NPC actor that was played by the main lore dude at the time, Ash's Imposition, and they were attempting to like explore the mysteries of the wormholes. And this was before Templar 1. Templar 1 kind of answered a lot of the problems and questions, which is why the Eric Jalan project kind of spun down. But what I found interesting was the Eric Jalan project focuses on a lot of things that Templar 1 doesn't go into, specifically things like the Talakon and the what the sleepers were up to prior to that. So I think that as we go forward, understanding who the Triglavian really are in relationship to things like the Drifters, because we know the Drifters are, well, we know that the sleepers are the statics from the Second Jovian Empire. Venal refers to them as that. And so in the Jove society, they kind of have two philosophies. The statics believe that they should not do any further genetic mutation on themselves. The modifiers believe that continual improvement is the key. And so at the end of the Second Jovian Empire, during the collapse, it's known as the Shrouded Days, and from that emerges what we now know as the Sleepers, who somehow fled to wormhole space called Anoinkus, and that's where they are now. And so we know that they are from the Second Jovian Empire. And we also know that the Triglavians recognize them, so they refer to the Drifters as of the Chamber of Tyrants, which is the leadership caste of the Second Jovian Empire. And but they also say that they're not the Second Jovian Empire. Like at first they keep referring to them of the Chamber of Tyrants, but then they're also saying they're incongruent with the Chamber of Tyrants. So they're saying these guys claim to be these things, but we don't think they are, which is really important. So, and then there's also like there's a point where they talk about a trig Jove tower, as if they worked together on something. So obviously the Trig are contemporaries and possibly members of the Second Jovian Empire. And the interesting thing about that is, you've got these guys that are all about evolution, all about mutation, that emerge from this time period, and it's like, well, what if these guys created the Jovian disease? I think that what we're seeing is an exploration of that timeline, that's a time period known as the Shrouded Days, that has never really been explored in Eve history. It's this giant black hole, even to the Jove. So nobody knows about it. So if you get rid of the Jovian Directorate, which they have, and they introduce the rival factions from the Shrouded Days, it's as if the Shrouded Days have now returned. So you have the Sleeper/Other that represents one side of the conflict, and then potentially the Triglavians would represent the other side of the conflict.
Cool.
Very
So
cool.
all this knowledge was lost, like the Dark Ages, where it just wasn't recorded in any way that we've been able to find, and now it's coming back. So we're starting to put these pieces together finally after, well, that was a long time ago that all that started. That's like, what, 6 years of lore or more?
Well, the Shrouded Days and the collapse of the Second Jovian Empire predates all of this. Like the Second Jovian Empire's collapse happened before even the empires were formed.
I'm saying, like,
So-
out of game, like when we read about it was like 6+ years ago.
So about that, I have traced back this story all the way to 2000, at least 2006. And actually I've 2008 2006 2008 was the very first moment, like, beats that you could say is part of the ongoing story, because that is when there's a Jove that went mad and like started doing all kinds of crazy stuff that the players had to like deal with. And one of the things he did was he was like harassing the Stain region, and he was having a secret meeting with an unknown person to give away Jovian tech unauthorized, which is why he got in trouble by the Jovian Directorate. And then it turns out, like a year later or less, the Sancha invade Angel Space. Now, Angel Space is the Heaven constellation, that's why they're angels. And it's called the Heaven constellation because that was actually the home of the Second Jovian Empire. So and the first, I think. So like the best Jove technology in the universe is there. So this is why the angels supposedly are so advanced. But Sancha goes and invades, and then wins basically. But then, or not wins, but like, does pretty okay, and then leaves. Right? Like they cut as if they got what they came for. And then two years later, suddenly Sancha starts coming through wormholes because they have a wormhole generator and they've taken over Jovian Directorate space, and that's the incursions. So the idea is that Sancha gets the wormhole device, and that opens up things like him going to Jove space. It even potentially opens up the possibility of him going into Trig space, which we know is really important because Sancha, if anybody, Sancha's the one that pissed off the Trig. While the ancient enemy Asdaja, which is the drifters to the Trig, are ideologically opposing and therefore must be extirpated as part of the Poshlost. This is how they talk. Sancha represents like an absolute existential threat. Sancha has corrupted one of their members, or they corrupted a crew of one of the ships, which required them to be destroyed. Ash's in position. They also corrupted a clade pylon, which is a multi-body tracking pylon inside the abyss. So when it came time to like sort out what the Triglavians thought of the Sancha, what they call the winnowing of the discourse, the actual request for the winnowing was denied, and immediately they created a special operations troika for the extirpation of the corrupted Hivelink for Narania. In other words, they were like, no, we're not going to discuss it. We're actually going to just build a special team that's just designed to destroy them. So they really hate the Sancha. So we'll see how that plays out as we move through chapter 2 and beyond.
Yeah, it's definitely some pre-existing bad blood there.
Extreme bad blood. And there is some hints of it too. Like there's been some attacks by the Sancha in like incursions and stuff, and then immediately followed up by invasion that has been called out by CCP in the lore. There's a specific system, I can't remember what it was. So there's actually a new group of Sancha known as the Vimoshka Chorus. Vimoshka means enlightenment or nirvana.
You want to drag those tricks over here?
I'm working on it.
Go ahead, keep going.
I was trying to make it so that they're in the hole. Sorry. I'll just stay over here from now on.
I distracted you, now you forget what you were saying.
I'm just trying to get back on track. Oh yeah, so there's this Vimoshka Chorus, which is a new branch. They refer to it as a splinter group of the of Sancha. And the biggest thing that we know about them is that there's a relatively new skin that came out for the Sancha's nation, and in it refers to a quote by who is supposedly now the head of the Vimoshka Chorus. It says that he is a former true citizen, which are kind of like they're the Sanchas that aren't totally enslaved, basically. So this guy used to be big in Sancha, and now he is the head of the Vimoshka Chorus. But at the same time, the Vimoshka, like just his quote and what they're doing, seems to show that this is still like in the realm of Sancha. Like we don't know why these are different than the rest of the Sancha, or if it's like a subset or whatever. But clearly they have similar goals, or at least a similar way of speaking than what you would expect from just normal Sancha. So it's possible that there's this far more aggressive Sancha branch that we're not quite understanding yet, and that is what the Triglavians are trying to deal with. Like there's a shadow war that's going on that we don't understand, but we are taking part in, which is fun.
Yes, taking part in wars that you don't know the reason for is always fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's a good story, right? Like we're being manipulated, and it's difficult to suss out. I mean, if you think about it, like it's so much better than a classic us versus them story. Like there is no definitive good guy or bad guy. It's just different objectives, and it's very difficult to suss out like who's using us and who's actually willing to help us or work with us.
I guess we'll find out one day, right?
Hopefully, I mean, like we should know more by the end of the month.
Exactly.
But I think that the Sancha stuff is probably going to be a slower burn, because I want to believe that the Sancha part of this storyline is actually leading into like Project Nova like stuff, because most of the time when you're dealing with the Sancha, they're like boarding ships, like they're on foot and invading things, like structures, and taking people off planets and stuff like that. And also, as we were leading into the last time that we were close to releasing Nova, that's when they started this Sancha story, where like the Sancha's kidnapping or stealing ships from the space lanes between Molten Heath and Iridia, which is Molten Heath was where the Dust Soldiers came from, right? So there's all these little plays on the fact that it's like, hey guys, we're working on first-person shooter, just so you know. That I think that the Sancha is they're waiting for that to advance to really get the Sancha super involved, but we'll see.
Yeah, and especially if the storylines are going to tie in, they probably don't want to tell us too much until they're got the storyline in Eve to a point where they can do it safely, I guess.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And that's one of the things I really like about the plot in this game, is that it actually has a lot more consistency than a lot of people give it credit for. And there's a lot more to it and a lot more things going on than I think people realize.
Yeah,
That's
CCP
one of
just
the things.
doesn't beat you about the head with it. You know, you have to think about it.
Exactly. I mean, like it's just like the real world, right? So you get a news article, and the only thing get told is what literally happened. But unless you're paying attention, you may not realize like the ramifications of it, or if this is happening a lot, or if this means something about the organizations and who they are and what they represent. Like for instance, the Amar Empress on the 3rd anniversary of her coronation released a new book asserting her authority, and on top of that, she also divided the empire, or their army, among the different. I'm on my way. Among the different heirs. So now instead of one centralized navy, each heir is responsible for their own territory. Like that has some pretty interesting ramifications. To fully appreciate it, you have to know a lot about the Amarian politics, which I'm not going into right here. But but if you just read that on the surface, you're like, okay, well, whatever. But like, not only is that interesting based on what it was, but it sets things up for these heirs to now operate independently, which just allows them to make better stories. And then on the other side of things, you have the PKN, I think it is. So now that they're redoing JITA, like they're building up JITA, the consortium that got the contract for that, a lot of people don't realize. So the Caldari state obviously is not like a monolith, right? They're one of the least like organized of all of them because they've got the different corporations, Ashen position. And then the corporations are divided among political lines. There's the Patriots and shoot, I can't remember the names of all of them, but there's 3 different political groups that kind of have different opinions about like what the state can be. Like one group might feel that trade with the other empires is what's important, and so like we should build up the entire group, or all of humanity basically, and like good trade is the secret. And then there's another group that are traditionalists that still long for the Rasa Empire and would just as soon like see the Galente blasted off the face of the universe. And so these different corporations, the megacorps, kind of align themselves in these 3 different factions. Well, what's interesting is that the groups that are being made with the Caldari corporations, including PKN, and then there's now one other, are actually not along the normal battle lines, as it were. So what CCP is doing is they're shaking up things and kind of putting people together in different configurations that I'm sure will have some sort of ramification in the long run.
Right. My push to talk button keeps ticking now. I need a new mouse, apparently.
Once you drop the MTU, I'll just start orbiting. I just like being as close to the spawn point as possible, because if I can get these dual webs on Zoria as soon as she spawns, it's game over, man. But yeah, these emerging conduits have become extraordinarily popular, both among our group and just among the player base as a whole. I'm really happy to see how many people have really embraced it, and at the same time, how many different solutions to the problem presents itself, right? Like so far, knock on wood, nobody's figured out a way to like totally game them. And so like people can argue over one ship over another, but it's like we're arguing over minutes, right?
Yeah, like even now with the 3 of us, we're at about 6 to 7 minutes a sight, and I was doing 8 to 12 solo. So you're not likely to get them that much faster.
Right. But what I'm saying is that like it doesn't matter. Like the best and the worst battle cruiser will be only like a minute or 2 away from each other. So it's not like if you want to fly a Hyperion, there's a way to fly a Hyperion without feeling silly. If you want to fly a Dominix, like basically if you want to fly any one ship, you can probably make it, as long as it's a battle cruiser above, function.
Right.
Now, whether or not it's going to be optimal, whether or not it's going to be an 8 to 10 minute ship, well, I mean, there's kind of a second tier of like the Vindicator and stuff like that that can run them at sub 10 minutes. But really, almost every ship, battlecruiser and above, could be made to a point where it's going to be running them in 10 to 13 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And again,
Give or
we're all
take.
flying pretty. I mean, these aren't the cheapest options. So.
Right,
And
but
it's
what,
still
that's
taking
what I'm
7
trying to say is that,
minutes, so.
yeah, even with the not cheapest option, it's still like, I mean, all you're doing is increasing your safety or, you know, reducing your speed by a little bit. It's not making the other options non-viable, and that's what I think is really important.
Yeah, because I think for me personally, like, I've been trying, like, we've seen the praxises all over the place. I've been trying those pretty hard just because I like them for new bros, right? I think it's a good ship for new players to use, really. So I've been trying to get the praxis to really work solo, but it's just my first Damovic fit, or Dracovic, sorry, not Damovic. Running these in a Damovic would be silly. Still seems to be the best of my solos.
The Dracovic is just really fun too, because it's so like engaging. I think it's the best if you just want to like enter into that flow state and just zone out, like, because not only are you working to make it as efficient as possible, but you're also having to juggle all the salvaging. So you're always falling behind on something.
I've been having a
And
lot
what
of
that
fun
does-
in my Icky because I have to every so often pop my assault damage control, you know, or overheat, you know, the tank every once in a while. It's not quite as tanky as the Dracovic.
Right.
But
That's correct.
So that has been fun as well. But again, that's the thing I like about it is that fly whatever you can, get a group. You know, there's so many options, as you were saying, that even the best option is a few % better, right?
Yeah. And
not
and
100 times better.
And with when it comes to this kind of thing, or the Abyss, invasion or emerging conduits or the Abyss, the thing I encourage people to do is, I mean, once you understand and have your, you know, this is how I'm going to make money. Mix it up, man. Do something not because it's the best thing, but do it because it's not the best thing. Do it because it's a challenge. I had a viewer hand me a dual ASB AAR cap injected Praxis fit, and at that point it's not even like, can you run the emerging conduit efficiently? It's, can you run the emerging conduit successfully? And so I really like this idea. I'd actually even heard of from somebody else about a corp that's now using Abyss as a proving grounds. So here, take this ship. I'm gonna watch you go into the Abyss, and if you come back out, I know you're a good enough pilot.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Yeah, that makes. Well, I mean, I wouldn't do that, but that makes sense if that's where you want to set your bar, right?
Yeah, I mean, like for like a PvP group,
Yeah.
even like.
Oh yeah.
It's like, here's a Vedmak. I've ran this Vedmak in a tier 3 Abyss, or tier 4 Abyss, or whatever, tier 4 Dark. So I know it's possible. Can you do it? Here you go. Prove me.
Interesting. Yeah, no, we're not going to start doing proving. We want to get people to the point. We want to take people that can't run them and get them to the point where they can.
Correct. We have a different objective.
Yes, obviously. But no, it's
Ash's
interesting
position.
that, because I know, you know, I've done applications where it was a duel with one of their guys, and you didn't necessarily have to win. There was one of the groups I was in. You had to just put up a good fight, you know. But
I mean, like,
Yeah.
even with 3-man Abyss, right? You can see, like, if somebody makes a mistake, you're there, and you can be like, oh, well, you should have done this.
right, yeah,
You got too close to the blasters, or
that is something I want to do too. I want to do more three-man Abyss.
yeah.
With
My favorite is, I have a Nurgle that I call Escort Service, that it can solo T1 Firestorms, no problem. So what I'll do is I'll bring 2 Punishers with me, and it's got a remote armor repper. So worst case scenario, I can try to help save who I'm with. And so that's my way of like introducing somebody into the Abyss. Like,
Yeah.
Well, you have somebody else that's just waiting to fly a Nurgle in the abyss with you too.
Hey,
Oh.
hey Ash, did you know I lost my Nurgle?
Oh no, I gotta get you one. That's right. You mentioned that, I think, right? I need to catch up on all my.
Yeah, no, you were in Vegas when I lost it, so you're a little distracted. Ash, are you in position?
I've been in position. I
Well,
said it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm in position.
Warp drive active.
But yeah, we could go 3 Nurgles into the abyss. That'd be fun.
Well, the person that just popped in is Recon. He's a guy that's been flying with us for a little while, and he and I have been doing some of our more crazier experiments. You know, running minor conduits in skiffs and orcas only. You know, and so one of the things that we've been wanting to do is 3-man Nurgle and see if we can get all the way up to T5s. Like,
I'm in.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Firestorms, man. Firestorms are the most deadly but most profitable abyss site.
Yeah, no, I'm in. Count me in. Let's sort that out. Can even record some of it because that's what I do.
Heck yeah.
So everybody in the channel, just know you guys are allowed to talk, ask questions. It's, we get Ash here for the channel, so feel free to speak up. Just know I am recording. So, but yeah, I wanted to get some more of the lore stuff because I'm not a huge lore guy. I mean, I enjoy it, but I don't keep track of it as well as I probably should. So this has been actually very excellent. We have run how many sites? Lots. We're at about an hour. So,
Man, are we? That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, man. Like, you just slip into these things.
just grind them out, yeah. So the idea I wanted to do here was have people on to talk about their experiences in Malro or in the emerging sites with the invasion stuff, and especially Ash with the lore stuff because also fresh off Vegas, so lots of I'm sure there's lots of thoughts just swirling around in that head of yours. So
Yeah, Team Talos, by the way. I haven't mentioned this yet.
I know, Team Talos. Exciting.
You cannot underestimate how impactful Team Talos could be to EVE Online.
It's a little bit scary knowing who Rise is, though.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? So it was no accident
Yeah,
that Rise's team is called Team Talos.
no kidding.
So for those of you who don't know, CCP Rise once was named Kill 2, and he was one of the most famous solo PvPers in an era in which solo PvP was not cool. It was so not cool that the name of his channel was Bringing Solo Back. And one of his favorite things to do was to solo PvP in a Talos. And he was really good at it. So in my opinion, when CCP Rise says, I've been given a team to challenge the core, you got to think, who is the core in this case? He's, in a lot of ways, a lot of the core are the very people that once upon a time watched Kill 2's videos, right?
Uh-oh.
So, what?
I forgot to turn my reppers on. I'm good now.
Okay. At least Concord didn't show up.
I got
But
complacent.
so when when Rise makes a new team and calls it Team Talos, it's telling me, hey, you remember that stuff that you liked about me? You remember how much I was in tune with what EVE needed and how to make EVE good for this kind of content? Yeah, that's what we're doing. Like, so I'm so pumped about Team Talos.
I just like that they're shaking things up. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I may not agree with everything they've done. I can see where it caused some stress somewhere, but just that they're willing to do it is exciting to me. And, invasion stuff, even in high sec, they are shaking things up and making it not just like, even now, right now, our home system is under invasion, making it very hard for us to mine our moons comparatively, and that's fine.
If you pay attention to what Hilmar and Berger have been saying in recent months, one of the things that they like to talk about is the weather of Iceland. And so prior to invasion, there are only 2 states that a high-sec system could be in. It could either be a normal system, or it could be subject to an incursion. And when it's subject to an incursion, it's basically shut off, right? It's just, oh, look, it's dangerous. And unless you're running incursions, you kind of avoid it, and that's it. Now you have a normal system, an emerging conduit system, a Rasnaborg system, a perimeter, an adjacent, a foothold, an incursion system, or a normal system. Like, there's so many different states that any given system will be in. And so that means at any given system will have different opportunities and different challenges on any given day. And so if you like expand that outwards into quote unquote a weather system, where it's like, okay, well, today it's, there's things out there that'll just kill you if you go try to mine. So either you have to be really careful if you're going to mine, but there's this other perk that's going on. Like there's rats that drop loot that you can go hunt down. So, that way the value of any given system changes, and how to extract that value changes on any given day. A good example is, so invasions, unlike incursions, it's not just, hey, look, there's dangerous crap now. Like, you get the mining bonus, you get the different rocks, and all that sort of stuff. So there's opportunities, not just challenges.
Yeah, which, and that's why, you form defense fleets and everything, and you go and do it still, because you do get the bonus as well. And it obviously brings our guys. I know we've just kind of embraced it. So for the most part, it really does bring our guys together, because they have to work together to make things work. And I like it. I like it a lot. That's all I'm saying.
And if you think about it from a broader spectrum, right? So when they created the Athenors and they put a lot of the value in low sec, Ashes in position, then
Keller's repairing. His 20% hull.
Oh, jeez.
I wasn't paying attention. I got complacent, and I almost died. That's what happens.
That's the thing about these trig, man. They'll catch you off guard.
Well, I think
they'll lull you into a false
just
sense of security.
Looked at me, and I melted because I didn't have my reppers on. Which I should just have them on, because I can run them perma tanking anyway. I am cap stable, but
I guess lessons learned.
You get complacent, and that's what happens. Anyways, I think this will be the last one for the recording.
Okay.
That puts me, I got some editing to do now, so that's excellent. Does anybody else have anything they want to sort of quickly throw in while we're running this last site? Anything? Ash, I know you probably want to get on stream, so maybe let my people know where to find you, since, some of my people obviously apparently don't know who you are.
Sure thing. I stream on twitch.tv/Ashterothi pretty much every weekday. I try to run invasion fleets most of the time, but I sometimes do other things too. Every weekday but Friday, sorry. Short day. Either way, I digress. And then, honestly, I recommend following my Twitter at Ashterothi, where I keep, not only do I update people on what my stream is up to, but when new things come down, or when things are brought to my attention about, say, the change of behavior of rats in emerging conduits, or if something leaks on hobo leaks or something like that, I'll put it on the Twitter. So if you want to stay like bleeding edge, up to date with Eve, my Twitter is a place to do that.
Yeah, and your fleets are open mostly to the public, to anybody that wants to come along, right? Not just
correct. I run open fleets. We have a standard for resist profiles, but basically, not only do we have a whole bunch of fits that are already proven to work, but we also have, we can work with people to make fits for most battlecruisers, battleships, etc. In fact, we even have a praxis that a person can use a buddy code and apply their skills correctly, and they will just be able to fly the praxis straight up. So minute one praxis, there's no reason to not go into the invasions and have some fun.
Yeah, maybe what I'll have to do is I'll have to do a day one alpha and come and join one of the fleets in it, just to showcase it.
As a matter of fact, one of the people that are with us, Sofia, they were very new. I don't remember exactly how new. When we first met them.
They say day three.
Yeah. So yeah, we met them day 3, and within half a month, I think it was, half a month to a month, they're rolling around in our wormhole with a Lashak, like doing crazy stuff. Like in less than a month.
Well, now they're with us in a Vindicator tearing up Triglavians. So hey.
I know, right? Like that's awesome to me.
The system works.
Yeah, it does. And there's a
Excellent.
reason why we've become the 8th largest independent corporation in EVE Online.
That's right. Through hard work of people that aren't me, right?
Well, I mean, if we're all going to just be, giving each other handshakes, I'll say that, you kept this place going when it was hard. So I'm doing the easy stuff.
That first year was rough. I'll tell you that.
But I mean, it was good though, because like the whole point of the experiment was to see whether or not a bunch of PvPers with resources could actually make a decent high-sec corp. So I think it was valuable to show where the real weaknesses were. So I think it's way too easy to blame the CEO in that kind of situation, right? It's like, oh well, you should have been fighting. The CEO failed you. But honestly, like in that sort of circumstances, it was the best action. So I feel like that's part of a way of like, it's a form of manipulation. Right?
Well,
you put a pressure on a situation and then you convince the followers that the leader is bad because of that pressure.
yeah, but again, and I'll say my credit, to our credit, yes, we didn't partake in war decks typically, but it's not that we weren't PvPing. I mean, when we wanted to teach people PvP stuff, we took them to low-sec, null-sec, and did it there, where it was proper, right? We didn't...
Right.
So... It was more,
yeah.
we avoided the war decks to keep the newer guys safe, and we took the guys that were ready to learn PvP, and we took them to where the real PvP happens. That's my
The honest
opinion.
problem with war decks in the old system wasn't that fighting sucks. It's that even the act of fighting goes contrary to your overall objective. Like,
yeah, well,
it's very much, the only way to win is not to play.
Well, yeah,
because
and
if
it
you
would
fight,
typically encourage them to continue fighting you because, oh look, they're fighting back. So it's like,
right, and they typically are more experienced in that field. So even if you have an experienced FC or whatnot, like you're fighting against people in rules that this is what they do.
Well, yeah, we did see that when like Fed Up came for that one war. It was a very different atmosphere for them, and there was some interesting things happening because it is a different playground completely, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we still won, but that's not the point. Yeah, no, I like the new system. I could see like one day maybe even just being part of the war deck system, but still think it's still just the people that are not. It's not war decking for territory control, and that's where I think it should that's where it should be. That's where the war deck thing would have value, is controlling territory in high sec.
Yeah, I think that you and I still agree that it should be constellation based, right?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Where you war deck within a constellation, and the idea is that you're exerting your control over that constellation so you can take advantage of its resources more so than the other guy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like,
that's where I would like to see it end up. If it got to that point, I could see Malro maybe rethinking its position on war decks. For sure.
That being said, one of the things I was surprised to find out is that Signal Cartel intentionally maintains a structure just so that they can be war decked, because in their opinion, because they're a different group, right? They're explorers, so their idea is that like having their people be under war deck keeps them on their toes, which is a good argument too.
Absolutely. But again, like we do that by having a small presence in low sec or being able to do that. So we do keep our guys on our toes too. We have to form up sometimes for our wormhole and our little worm.
There actually was a really fun moment, like 4 days ago, during the Halloween event. So one of our people was running an Emerging Conduit. Ash is in position, if you're coming still.
Okay, we'll do one
more. one more block. So we had a person running an Emerging Conduit who had a person come in and shoot their MTU, and so they went suspect, and then they fired upon the suspect, or their drones did, or something. Either way, they became vulnerable to the suspect.
Yeah.
And so they were like 4 or 5 jumps from Jita. And so we actually scrambled together a support fleet and sent Griffins out to jam the dude and save our own guy.
Yeah.
So we have our own form of scrambling for... And then like last night, actually, so last night, Phoenix comes on comms and says, hey, anybody up for some shenanigans? Not like ganking shenanigans, but stealing shenanigans. And what happened was a 2.5 or so billion-esque Lashak was ganked by Code in Valor, and he identified it. And so there's only 2 of us ready to go. So like I undock in my Orca, and it turns out we already had like a fleet getting ready to go for for miners. And so I'm like, here, come with us. And so we all just go into Valor and run this minor conduit. And there's like all these neutrals coming in to try to take it while we're doing it. And in the end, Phoenix pops the MTU, and then he's like, shoot, I didn't get it. And like I look, and all of the other dudes are still neutral. So I'm like, no, I don't think it got stolen. I don't know what's happening. And then one of our guys like, I'm out, and like just morphs off and links it. And we got 1.6, I think, billion ISK out of that wreck.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
there's always like that idea of like response time stuff definitely does happen.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I know we have especially, all of our members are awesome. We have really good officers taking care of like organizing all that stuff. Like I couldn't be prouder of what we've put together here, Ash. I'm telling you.
I agree. I could not be prouder of what you've put together here.
Well, thank you for giving me the credit. No, it was definitely a group effort. So Sophia's yelling at you. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to say? We have a few people in the chat or in the comms here.
Where do we keep the cookies?
Where do we keep the cookies? Are in Brank's office in BSEC.
Roger that.
He's not there, so you can have as many as you want.
Oh.
Cool. All right. Is that it? This is one more wave, right? There we go. That'll be the last site. So mostly that was just so I could show how much more efficient and fun it is with a group doing these sites, because most of my stuff has been solo on the channel recently. And I think it shows. I mean, the last one was 7 minutes. This one's on par to be 6 or 7 minutes. And an extra 9 million ISK payout when you add the other 2 people. So there we have it. We're just going to get this wave down, and we're going to call it a day for this video. So yeah, definitely recommend checking out Ash's stream, joining his or really any of our invasion fleets. He runs most of them. If that's something you're interested in getting into, that's a really good place to start because you'll have lots of friends. And follow him on Twitter for sure. There's a lot of people you should be following, but Ash is definitely one of them. And then basically just follow anybody Ash follows. That's what I did.
So there's two things I want to throw out when it comes to this sort of thing. First of all, since he's here, I want to say that Squish has been really stepping up being our FC more and more. So more and more frequently, he's actually the one running it, and I'm just being there in an Orca or something. And he does a really good job with that. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Squish.
I appreciate it.
The other thing is that, so people often ask me like, what's the ISK per hour of this and all that stuff, and emerging conduits do have really good ISK per hour, but the honest truth is that if you're mining with a bunch of friends, that can be fun, and that's mining. So if you're doing it with a bunch of people like this, like just hanging out, you can do this for hours. Whereas if you're VNI ratting, and you're actually, or not VNI ratting, but whatever they use nowadays, whatever them kids are using these days, like I do that, like, yeah, great, Myrmidon, fine. I want to claw my eyes out after a certain point, or even like the Abyss, which I love. Like after an hour or two of nonstop Abyss, like I can't do it anymore. I got to take a time out. But these things and the invasions, those kinds of content, I can do it for 8 hours and be like, you know what I want to do? Get up tomorrow and do it again. Like, so it's not just about ISK per hour. It's about how engaging and rewarding that time is for you beyond just the ISK reward. On top of the fact that, and the other thing I like to say is that, ISK per hour, fun per hour, these are good moment-to-moment things to measure yourself. But if you really want to talk about what you're going to care about in a year, how is this moment going to matter to you in 6 months to a year? So what have you learned, right? How has this experience made you a better pilot? And so these things like emerging conduits, Abyss, invasions, Rasnaborg, that have even the slightest amount of like technical challenge to them, in the end, the pilots that do this stuff end up being more experienced. And that's I mean, like, our corporation and our members are a testament to that. You know, a month old, they're already, like, I have to explain to them, no, you don't understand. Like, people don't know this stuff, right? Like year-old pilots have no idea how the game mechanically works.
And there we have it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that sort of raw look at some emerging conduits in a small fleet. I was really happy. Would like to thank for Ashterothi and Sofia for coming along. They were great companions. As you heard, whenever me and Ash kind of get on comms together, talking ensues. So lots of great information, especially from Ash, coming through about lore and stuff from you Vegas and all that kind of stuff. Always really enjoy that. So hope you guys enjoyed watching that as well. I know it's a bit of a longer video, but I think it was worth it. At about an hour. For those that are interested, let's take a look at the numbers. So here's the low-key I was running for fits, for hopefully all 3 ships, but especially for this low-key. I will definitely do some recording solo with the low-key. Something more specific. It is kind of intended to be solo, so we'll see how it goes. And I'm going to try to get a hold of that Vindicator fit from Sofia, because that looked like a lot of fun, and compare Ash's Icky to mine, but I'll probably run my Ikatursa. But let's take a look at, for those that want it, the income. So for just over an hour, so an hour and just a little under 10 minutes from first to last site. Yeah, there's some spending there. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sites run. So that's 49.5 million? Yeah, 49.5 million in an hour. That's not bad. You factor in the fact that both Ash and Sofia made that as well. So let's say it's 50 million. Each, so 150 million for the 3 sites just in the payouts. And then we also divvied up by 3 the Triglavian survey data, so it's about another 40 million there. So 90 million for Mia personally for that hour. Not terrible at all. All the salvage we got was donated away. I'm not counting that as income. That's going to be disposed of however they see fit. But 90 million for an hour's work. We could, especially since we were talking like lore and stuff, where we really focused down and kept things rolling, we probably could have squeezed in an extra 2 sites in that hour. Maybe 1. We'll play more with that as well. If you guys really like that, I'll do some more of that. I want to get some other guys out as well, give them some camera time. We have lots of really good guys in Malro, so we'll definitely look at doing that. But stay tuned for some videos. Maybe I'll record my low-key next week. Maybe for the Thursday video next week. I do want to get back into the blitzing, so I'm hoping to have that on Monday. We'll see how the weekend goes. Either way, this low-key should show up next week. I'll show you the fit then. And run it through some solo to see how it actually does. On Pyfa, it reps like 1,000 EHP per second, so it should be fine tank-wise, but there we go. Alright guys, that's going to be the end of the video. As always, comment on the video or anything Eve down in the comment section down below. Definitely love chatting to you guys. For some longer form conversations, definitely hit me up on my PDK Discord, which is at the bottom of the screen here. Eventually that will be a link. If you do want to join Malro and jump in on some of these fleets, we've almost always got somebody doing something. Give us a check out on our website. Get a link to our public Discord. Talk to a recruiter there and get you in on that. And as mentioned, if you do want to just try some invasion fleets, check out Ash's streams Monday through Thursday. Follow his Twitter for his start time and get in on that. And you'll have a great time. You make some ISK. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys, as always, take care of each other. We'll see y'all next time. I'm out of here.